Hi folks, welcome to the Sabres Reloaded, the video on the channel that throws a topic out there and discusses it on the video. And I got a topic that one of you threw at me, so I'm going to give credit where it's due here. And here is the clip. And shout out goes to Black LJS, and LJS says, it would be interesting to compare this list with something, say, 10 years into the future. I have a feeling a couple of guys on the current roster will eventually someday bump guys, great as they are, off the list. Yeah, I agree with that. Perreault will forever be number one for me. Gilbert Perreault will always be Mr. Sabre, right? I mean, there's no doubt about that. But yes, what you're saying here, I don't know if I mentioned in the video, I guess I should have, as I believe that too. Guys like Dylan Cousins, you know, Alex Tuch, how great will his legacy be when he's done and retired? If we win a Stanley Cup here, I think a lot of these names are going to bump a lot of names off the, especially if we win a Stanley Cup, guys. If we win a Stanley Cup, I don't think there's any way around it. LJS, I mean, mentions here that, as great as they were, he believes that this is how we're starting to feel about this team, guys, about this current team. We're starting to feel pretty damn good about it. I mean, yes, they broke our hearts the way it ended last year. Okay, that's fine, but we got to be a little thick-skinned, and we have to be able to back up and say, hold on a second, what is really going on with this team long-term? And I think we're going to see some smart moves in the offseason. I don't think we're going to go and we're going to get the biggest name or anything, but I think we're going to get some guys that we're going to talk about, feel pretty good that we went out and got. That's just how I feel. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I will be surprised if we don't go and get a blue liner this year, because this seems to be the right time to go spend a little and get a blue liner and stabilize our back end a bit, because, we have a young squad back there. We do. I mean, you talk about guys like Yoki Haru's 23. I mean, we have such a young bunch back there that I think we have to be smart and glue it together a bit tighter, And I think if we go and get a veteran, and it doesn't have to be an all-star, it doesn't have to be a Hall of Famer, it just has to be a really good, solid veteran that comes in, and in the dressing room, the young guys are just watching him put on his equipment, and then they talk to him, and he's calm, a lot calmer than they are about a certain situation on a certain night or something, and things like that, As this team progresses, I think what LJS says is right on. I do believe eventually that the potential's there for a lot of the names on our current team, to make history and be some of the greatest Buffalo Sabres in our franchise's history, really. It's Tage Thompson has it. He has that potential. And if Tage goes crazy and has a few 4 50-goal seasons in that contract, folks might remember him as the greatest goal scorer in Sabres history eventually. We're not there yet. It's way too soon. Will Dylan Cousins be as great as Craig Ramsay was as a defensive forward? Because, Ramsay did put up some numbers too. And Dylan Cousins is going to be a 30-goal guy, but is he going to be like a 35, 40-goal guy that wins the Selke? I mean, how awesome would that be? These are just questions I ask myself when I look at this young bunch. Owen Power, what happens to him when he fills out? He's already kind of steady. Yeah, I know he's not the biggest hitting defenseman or nothing, but he's also, he's young and he's learning this league. He's not like stepping into it like, hey, I'm the number 1 overall pick and I'm just going to come dominate. No, I don't think he's that stupid to even go that route in his head. Looking at if we're gonna break it down, I mean, once the vets are gone, and it's going to be very soon, guys. We're going to lose some, I think, this year even. So we're probably going to be the youngest team in hockey again this year. I mean, I can't see us not being the youngest team in the league again, especially when you take the age of Anderson off this roster. And instead, you put on Devin Levi. I mean? You're not going to year off everybody's age again. So they're the same age as a team as last year, literally, depending what we do in the offseason. If we get a few guys 33, 34, that might change. We'll have to see. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what they're planning. I don't know. I just don't know. Are they going to go with guys? Because if you hear Adams talk about it, when he talks about getting a guy, let's say like Greenway, okay, just for example, Greenway's still very young. And like he mentions these things. Every time you talk to Adams, he'll say that he fits in with the age of what we're trying to do here. Like he always talks about the age, which I like. I like that. So he's very aware that yes, you need some veterans on the team, but you don't want to load them up. You don't want to be an old team like the Penguins. You don't want to wind up like that. Or the Capitals. We don't want to wind up like that one day, guys. Unless we've won Stanley Cups with them, then it's different. Okay? If we won, let's say, 2 or 3 Stanley Cups in the future, yeah, I get we're going to keep that core together and try to squeeze one more out or whatever it is at that point. But, you know, until we actually go and do that, I don't want this team ever becoming one of the oldest teams in hockey. I want to always kind of stay in the middle once we're there and see if we can build into a champion and break through. And what we're talking about in this clip here really is the future. What about the future? How do you guys think that the future of this team, could this really be, could it be maybe our greatest era ever coming our way now? I always believe that, guys. I do. I believe in sports that sometimes you got to go through the worst. Ask the Cubs fans. You got to go through the worst of the worst of the worst before the good times really roll and hit. And it might be 1 year like the Cubs were when they won their World Series. You guys remember that fan that caught that foul ball? And then after that, they just got slaughtered after. And they were like 4 outs from the World Series that year or something, weren't they? It was something like that. So weird things in sports happen. I believe that what LGS has said here about that this team has that potential to knock off some of those great names. Think about it. You know, that's pretty crazy. Because guys, it was a few short years ago, we were losing 18 games in a row and everything looked absolutely hopeless. Hopeless. And where I started getting hope is when we unloaded Taylor Hall. And then, you know, when we started to unload some of the duds on the team, and especially when we unloaded Jack and got a good return, things started to fall into place. And guys, before you know it, it happens very soon. 5 years passes and this team is a powerhouse. And we're like, how did this happen? It was good planning. That's what it comes down to, is good planning. For us to go and get, I don't know, these guys 37, 38, 39 and overpay them just to make us survive. We didn't need them last year and we came close. We didn't need them last year. What we needed last year, guys, was a full year of Devin Levi. That's what we needed last year. I think we would have made the playoffs if we had Devin Levi all year last year. We would have been a playoff team a month before the playoffs. You know, it just started. We didn't have any solid goaltending last year. I mean, Anderson gave us his best for his age. He gave us good goaltending. The other, I'm not going to say Luukkonen gave us good goaltending because I don't believe he did. I know he looked really good some games, but he'd always bounce back with a crap game after that. And Comrie just never could get his zone going. From that first West trip of the year on, he never could seem to get it going again, and the injuries and everything, what have you. But I think we got to move those guys out. I just do. I think we got to be merciless, guys. I think we got to be smart. And if there's any chance, and I want to close on this, guys, if there's any chance we can get Carter Hart from Philadelphia, honestly, I'll say it right now, the hell with Hellebuck then, okay? Get Carter Hart. That's a younger goalie. I'm a big believer in this kid, as you know. I've said it for years on the channel. Give up a first rounder to get this guy. Get him. You know, I don't think there's any chance, to be honest. But if we could ever have 2 awesome young, you know, a young goalie and a younger goalie together, I think Carter Hart would be just fine, really. And we wouldn't have to pay this guy like $9 million or whatever some of these big names like Gibson and that would require. Let's face it, guys, right? I mean, how much would Hellebuck cost us? This is my question. It's always my question, because we got to pay Rasmus Dahlin, and we can't start maxing out our cap just because we're good now. No, we got to keep cap open. And I think Adams is going to do that with this team. I do. I think he's going to be smart with the cap. And this is what LJS, what I believe, what what is necessary is we keep some cap open, because then it gives us room to succeed in the playoffs. And that's when we're going to remember these players like LGS is talking about in that clip, is what are they going to do for us eventually in the playoffs? Because we're not going to care in the regular season. I think I could safely say, guys, most of us are beyond that. We want playoff success to be able to really party, you know? And once we get that, I don't think, guys, there'll be any team in Buffalo Sabres history you'll love more than the team that wins the Stanley Cup. I don't care how talented they are or aren't. That's the team we'll remember for eternity after. So, all right, guys, done. I am done for the night. I am going to get back out there, process, and I want to get back into this show I'm watching. If you guys ever seen it, it's called 1899. Very interesting, you know, but I fell asleep, and I want to get back into it. So, see you tomorrow, guys.